Hi, Barbara Grassey here, the book boss, and we are on to the second of our 3 training videos on building credibility. Become an author, they say. And writing a book is one of the fastest ways to build your name recognition, which can lead to more sales, higher level clients, and being invited to the A-list parties. Well, maybe not invited to those parties, but writing a book does give you credibility. And I'm going to stress authoring a quality book gives you credibility. You are seen as an expert in your field. But there are 2 sides to the credibility coin. It can be the inside and the outside. You might see that there's a silver coin with a copper interior, not quite silver all the way through. Or as I like to look at it, the internal and the external. So let's start with internal credibility. Internal credibility are those little voices in your head that undermine you. They're saying things like, I'm not successful enough to write a book. I'm not famous. I don't make millions of dollars. I don't have the expertise necessary to write a book. We hate those little voices. We're talking about here your confidence level. You might be wondering, who am I to write a book? And some people struggle with writing a book because they lack confidence. They lack belief in their own credibility. And in short, they just don't give themselves enough credit. So let me ask you, do you feel like a fraud? It's estimated that 70% of people have imposter syndrome. You didn't know it was a real syndrome, did you? Some of the top people in the world are walking around thinking, oh man, if people only knew what I was really like, I would get fired, nobody would vote for me, people wouldn't go to my movies. People walk around, not just you, thinking that they're just not good enough. Why is that? Let me show you somebody that I think is more than good enough. I always feel like something of an imposter. I don't know what I'm doing. Jodie Foster, Oscar-winning actress, probably one of the leading actresses over decades of time. So yeah, she's got staying power too. Here's the one that just threw me off my chair when I read this one. I'm not a writer. I've been fooling myself and other people. John Steinbeck, who was actually one of my personal gods, wrote this in his diary in 1938. Now, these people were at the top of their fields. They are some of the finest, most qualified people to do what they do. And yet they're walking around feeling like frauds. So true imposters really don't suffer from imposter syndrome. They think they're doing just fine, thank you. But people with imposter syndrome tend to be perfectionists. And that's why we walk around thinking we're not good enough, that we're imposters. We want everything to be perfect. So if you're asking, who am I to write a book? Then congratulations. You're exactly the right person to write your book. And just so you know, this isn't about fake it till you make it. I do love that little fishy. Let's talk about the whole Malcolm Gladwell's outliers proposition that people need to have 10,000 hours of time to be an expert in their field. Well, the book popularized the idea that 10,000 hours of deliberate practice puts you at the world-class level. However, that 10,000 hours was an average, okay? Some people took less than 10,000 hours to get to world-class. Maybe they had natural talent, maybe they had better coaches. It didn't take 10,000 hours. Other people took 20,000 hours. It just took them longer to get to world-class level. And you can master certain things in far less than 10,000 hours. So the length of time practice does not equal mastery. And just so you know, if you're practicing the wrong things, you're never going to master that subject or topic. Here's the other part of this statement. He says 10,000 hours of deliberate practice puts you at the world-class level. That is the top 1/2 of 1%. Those are the Olympic athletes. Those are the people who are running the world. Those are people who made their first million at the age of 12. I hate those people, don't you? Okay. You don't have to be an Olympic athlete to be a great coach. You don't have to be in the top 1/2 of 1% to do what you do. You just have to have a demonstrated expertise in your subject, okay? And a book's going to help you do that. So let's give yourself credit. Take stock of your education, your formal education. If you went to special training classes, if you went through seminars, if you attended webinars, if you took home study courses. That's all part of your education. And then add in your brain power. You've certainly given your niche, your business, a lot of thought. Your personal experience definitely adds to what you do. And brainstorming with others in the field, their experiences contribute to what you know. It all contributes to your knowledge base. So even if you've just begun in a certain niche, you probably have knowledge and experience from another field that you can carry over into your new field. You have a knowledge base, you're just not acknowledging it. Don't you like that? Knowledge and acknowledge? Clever, eh? Okay, so let's talk about how credibility works. It's cumulative, and I love to use Bob Burg as an example. Bob wrote a book in the early 90s, I think, called Endless Referrals. And it was a book that showed people how to get referrals and to build a referral-only business. Now, wouldn't it be great to have a referral-only business? You're not out there marketing, you're not cold calling, you're not struggling to get people into your business. Well, he wrote a great book. I actually found it in the late 90s and said, hey, this is a great book. And here's the thing about Bob. I discovered the book and I tried to spread the word as much as possible because I thought this is a great book for anyone in sales. And it also tells people how to network properly. And if you've gone to any number of network meetings where people just come up to you, introduce themselves, and try to sell you, you know how annoying that is. So I like to recommend this book to people in my networking communities because I really got tired of being sold to. But here's the thing. Bob wrote the book and he was going out and he was giving talks. And he was talking about how to build your referral business. And he went out and probably did a pretty steady business, but he really wasn't very well known. It was something that happened over time. Bob became one of those people who said, you know who's good? Bob Burg. And he built up that credibility over time. And here's the thing about Bob, he actually walks his talk. If you've ever met him and he's gone and introduced you to somebody else, he introduces people exactly the way he tells people to do it in his books. He is always looking for ways to connect people to each other and to help other people's business. He actually is the go-giver. So back a few years ago, he teamed up with a man named John David Mann, and they took the Endless Referrals book and they created what was called the Go-Giver. And the Go-Giver hit the New York Times bestseller list. And part of that was because Bob had been steadily building his reputation. Over the past 10 to 12 years, he was speaking to large groups. He was helping people build their referral businesses. And when his Go-Giver came out, which is really a parable book based on the principles of referral marketing, he had that base that actually lifted him to the top. But really, if he'd come out with the Go-Giver when he first started, it would not have been as big a book as it was, and still is, actually. So his credibility is cumulative. That New York Times bestseller was a result of a lot of work, so his overnight success might have taken a little bit more than overnight. So let's talk about the 800-pound gorilla in your field. Who's the leader in your field? Who's the person who wrote the Bible for your niche? If you look at self-development, of course it's Tony Robbins. If you're looking at personal finance, Susie Orman is one of the 800-pound gorillas in the field. So how can your book compete with theirs? That's kind of hard, isn't it? Because you're not that rich and famous person who's on TV late night. But here, think about this. You bring your perspective. They don't have your perspective. You have different experiences. Your way of communicating. Not everybody can follow the way Tony Robbins talks or Susie Orman talks. You have your own way of taking information and breaking it down for your community. And again, your experiences. You're bringing your experience actually creates your perspective. So your experiences mold what you think. They have been part of the way you have developed what you do. And your experiences show you what works and what doesn't. And most importantly, you bring your accessibility. Not everybody has $100,000 to give to Tony Robbins to go spend a week sitting on the beach in Tahiti or Hawaii with him. Not everyone can afford a $10,000 day with a guru. Okay, so If you are not at the Susie Orman level or the Tony Robbins level, then the fact that you are more accessible to people who need your help is a huge credit in your favor. Let's talk about external credibility now. So being an author or writing a book shows that, one, you have enough knowledge to fill a book. What do you know about your topic? Well, I wrote a book. Oh, okay. It also demonstrates your ability to communicate your ideas. So if you're a mentor, a coach, a consultant, or a speaker, it shows that you can express your ideas clearly. That's very important when you're in those positions. And it also shows you have the perseverance and the organizational skills necessary to complete a large project. So here's the public perception. In spite of millions of downright crappy Kindle books, being an author still has a mystique. People admire authors. 81% of people want to write a book someday, and most of them don't. Okay? And being an author immediately gives you the stature of an expert. So people still don't know that anyone can self-publish a book today. They don't know that writing a book does not have to be a long and torturous project. With my system, it's easier than you think. And actually, it's easier than most people think. They don't need to know that, okay? So, people still don't know that anyone can self-publish a book today. That writing a book doesn't have to be a long and torturous project. With my system, it's easier than most people think. It's easier than you think if you know what you're doing. That might be key right there. So, no starving, no Garrets. This is actually a picture of my no, it's really not my office, but boy, some days my house does look like that. Okay, so no starving, no Garrets. It's not fun being a starving writer, and you don't have to be a starving writer. My first book took me forever to write. And after writing over 50 books, ebooks, courses, manuals, I've edited hundreds of books. I've worked out a system that's easy, and it gets the book written quickly. That is key. So writing a book always seems impossible until it's done, right? My system shows you all the things that you need to do to get your book written. It helps you organize your material. It breaks the writing down into manageable steps. It helps you create a project timeline. Most importantly, it helps you keep your eye on the prize. I spent way too many years doing it the hard way, and I ended up frustrated and unproductive. And really, I had very little to show for my efforts. In my next video, I'm going to share with you some of the things that I've learned and parts of my system. And first of all, I'm going to show you how to find content. And then I'm going to show you the different ways to structure your book. And I'm also going to show you how to do the actual writing quickly, easily, painlessly. So stay tuned. Video number 3 is coming your way in just a day or so. Thank you so much for hanging in there, and go get a cup of coffee. That's what I'm doing. Take care.